You wake up, grab your phone, and the first thing you do is check your bank account. You see the balance, and for a second you feel that familiar sharp pinch of anxiety. It feels low. It feels like you are behind. But then you look at your pay stub or your recent deposits. You realize you are earning $200,000 a year. You are objectively doing well by almost any standard, yet you feel like you are just barely keeping your head above water. You look around and everyone else seems to be doing fine, or at least they look like they are. And you are left wondering if you are doing something fundamentally wrong. My name is Tom, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychology of financial growth and why our brains often struggle to catch up with our paychecks. If you are someone who feels like you should be much further ahead than your bank account suggests, consider subscribing if this video helps. This feeling, this dissonance between your income and your internal sense of security is what people often call money dysmorphia. It is the inability to accurately perceive your own financial reality. It is a psychological distortion that keeps you trapped in a cycle of stress, regardless of the zeros on your paycheck. We are going to break down why this happens and how to actually fix it, because the problem is rarely just about the math. Let's start by acknowledging that the standard advice we hear, save more, spend less, invest in the market, is not wrong, but it is often insufficient. It assumes that we are rational calculators. We are not. We are creatures of habit and status, constantly looking over our shoulders to see where we stand relative to our peers. Imagine for a moment someone earning $60,000 a year. This is a common salary, one that many people feel is not enough to get ahead. Let's say this person lives on $55,000, saving $5,000 annually. They are living a disciplined life. They are avoiding the temptation of a new car loan. They are cooking at home, and they are slowly building a cushion. After 5 years, they have $25,000 in savings, plus some moderate growth. They feel a sense of accomplishment because they have built something from almost nothing. Now compare that to someone earning $120,000. On paper, they have double the income. Mathematically, if they lived the exact same lifestyle as the person earning $60,000, they should be saving $65,000 a year. That is a massive difference. But in reality, what often happens? They do not save $65,000. They might save $10,000 or $15,000. Why? Because the increase in income creates an automatic increase in expectations. They move to a better neighborhood because they feel they have earned it. They lease a newer car because their old one feels beneath their new salary bracket. They buy the slightly more expensive coffee, the better quality clothes, and they start eating out because after all, they can afford it. Here is what is actually happening. The person earning $120,000 has experienced lifestyle inflation, but they have also fallen into a trap of thinking that because they have more money coming in, they have more margin for error. They feel just as stressed as the person earning $60,000 because their expenses have risen to meet their income. This is the comfort trap. You lose the discipline of the lower income earner, but you do not gain the security of a truly wealthy person. When you are earning $200,000, this effect is amplified. You are now in the top tier of earners, yet you feel broke. Let's look at the breakdown of a $200,000 salary. After federal and state taxes, depending on where you live, you might be taking home roughly $130,000. That is $10,800 a month. Now, if your rent or mortgage is $4,000, which is not uncommon in major cities today, you are down to $6,800. You have car payments, insurance, utilities, groceries, and debt payments. Maybe those eat up another $3,000. You are left with $3,800. You think that is a lot of money. But then you account for vacations, gifts, occasional splurges, and the cost of maintaining a lifestyle that matches your peers. Suddenly, that $3,800 evaporates. You are left with nothing, or maybe a few $100s at the end of the month. You look at that bank account and you feel broke. You think you are doing something wrong, but you are actually just reacting to the environment you have built. The issue is not that you are spending too much on coffee or avocado toast. The issue is that you have built a life that requires the entirety of your high income just to sustain it. You have effectively handcuffed yourself to your paycheck. We often hear the advice that once you hit $100,000, everything gets easy. Or that once you are a six-figure earner, you can just set it and forget it. That is a dangerous myth. It is the opposite of reality. The higher your income, the more complex your financial life becomes. You have to navigate taxes, investment accounts, retirement planning, and potential debt. It's not easier. It is just a different set of challenges. And the psychological burden is often higher because you are terrified of losing the status you have worked so hard to achieve. This brings us to a concept called the fear of volatility. When you have very little, you do not fear market drops because you have nothing to lose. But once you have accumulated $50,000 or $100,000, you start to pay attention. You look at your account, you see the market dip, and you feel that money evaporating. It is a very real, very visceral feeling. This is loss aversion. We feel the pain of a $1,000 loss twice as intensely as the joy of a $1,000 gain. So what do? You stop investing. You keep your money in a savings account because it feels safer. But here is the trade-off. Let's say you have $100,000 in cash and you decide to keep it in a high-yield savings account because you are nervous about the market. You are earning, let's say, 4% interest. That is $4,000 a year. If you had invested that in a diversified portfolio that returned historically 8% over the long term, you would have earned $8,000. You are paying $4,000 a year in opportunity costs just to keep your money where you can see it. You are trading your future security for present comfort. And the irony is, by staying in cash, you are actually losing ground against inflation. You feel safe, but you are not getting wealthier. We need to reframe how we view money. It is not just about the number in the bank. It is about the agency that money provides. When you feel broke on a $200,000 salary, it is usually because you have traded your optionality for visibility. You are spending money to signal that you are successful, rather than spending money to actually become successful. So how do we fix this? It starts with uncoupling your identity from your spending. You have to realize that the person you were when you earned $60,000 is the same person you are now. You do not need to upgrade your life just because your income upgraded. Let's try a thought experiment. Imagine you suddenly had to go back to earning $80,000 a year. What would you cut first? You would look at your expenses and realize that a significant portion of them are not essential. They are things you do because you are used to doing them. Why wait for a financial crisis to make those changes? Why not voluntarily live like you are earning $100,000 even though you are earning $200,000? If you took that $100,000 gap and invested it, you would not just be building wealth, you would be buying your freedom. You would be creating a buffer that allows you to take risks in your career, to change jobs, to start a business, or to simply sleep better at night knowing that you have options. This is the shift from being a high earner to being a wealthy person. High earners have high cash flow but low net worth. Wealthy people have lower cash flow relative to their assets and higher net worth. You want to be the latter. Many people think the answer is to grind harder, to get that promotion, to hit $250,000. But if you have not addressed the lifestyle inflation and the psychological need to project wealth, hitting $250,000 will just make you feel broke at a higher level. The goalposts will just move further away. The key is to define what enough looks like for you. Not what the internet says, not what your neighbors are doing, but what you actually need to feel secure. For some, that is a 6-month emergency fund. For others, it is knowing their retirement is fully funded. Once you hit those goals, everything else is just extra. It becomes a tool to use, not a scoreboard to track. Take a moment to look at your last 3 months of expenses. Not to judge yourself, but to audit your life. How many of those purchases were actually aligned with your long-term goals? How many were just you keeping up with an invisible standard? When you see the numbers laid out, it is often a wake-up call. You might realize that you are spending $500 a month on things you do not even remember buying. That is $6,000 a year. That is a significant amount of money that could be working for you, not against you. This is not about deprivation. It is about intentionality. It is about deciding where you want your money to go rather than watching it disappear. When you start to make this shift, you will notice something interesting. You will start to feel less anxious. You will start to feel more in control. And the most interesting part, you will realize that you never were broke. You were just blinded by the pace of your own life. You were running so fast that you could not see how much you had actually accumulated. Financial freedom is rarely a light bulb moment. It is a slow, steady process of aligning your behavior with your values. It is about realizing that the feeling of being broke is a symptom of a lifestyle that has outpaced your goals, not a reflection of your actual capacity to build wealth. So for this week, I want you to try something simple. Look at your fixed expenses: rent, insurance, utilities, subscriptions. Are there any that have crept up over the years that you do not need? And then look at your variable spending. Could you, just for the next 3 months, commit to saving the difference between your current lifestyle and a more modest version of it? See how it feels. See if the anxiety starts to lift. The math is simple, but the psychology is hard. Be patient with yourself. You are unlearning habits that society has been teaching you since the day you started working. It takes time, but it is worth it. If you are currently in a place where you are earning a good salary but still feeling that pinch, I want to hear about it. Drop a comment below and let me know what your biggest hurdle is. Is it the pressure to look the part? Is it the fear of the market? Is it just the sheer cost of living in your city? Sometimes just articulating the struggle can help you see it more clearly. You are doing better than you think. You have the income, you have the potential, and now you have the strategy. Consistency is the only thing that separates the people who stay trapped in that cycle from the people who eventually break free. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If you found this perspective helpful, consider hitting that like button as it helps other people find this conversation. I will see you in the next one.